Good morning, Terrell here. Beautiful Sunday morning. And we got a Debrex here we're going to be doing Ej20x swap on. Cool thing is this thing already has an Ej20x swap. So I'm basically going to be pulling the motor out, taking the intake manifold off this, the exhaust manifold, turbo, clutch, and swapping onto the new Ej20x. It's just direct swap. I have no idea. I think it's going to probably take me about 4 to 6 hours on the ground. I got to move some stuff here, get this car up in the air, get some coolant and oil draining out of it, and get it ready to swap out. But it shouldn't take a super long time, and I'm kind of excited. Good little job on a Sunday here. See if there's any codes. Checking when it is on. Cool. Yes, I know it is on beforehand. Motor is up on jack stands. I'm gonna go ahead and drain the coolant, get the radiator out, get the AC compressor off, power steering pump off, intercooler off, all the bell housing bolts, and try to time lapse this and make it somewhat entertaining with music, of course. For this job, you're gonna need, in my opinion, I like a 14 wobbly, 3/8 typically like that. You're gonna need a 10 millimeter. I usually use deep for almost everything, and then typically at least a 12 deep as well. You will need a shallow 12 as well, and probably shallow 10, but that's for starters. And a flathead always helps for almost everything. Never installed one of these top mounts. I'm not sure what brand this is, but it's got kind of a cool mount actually. A little bit hard to see maybe, but there's a mount across the bottom and then a bolt through the transmission that actually holds this on. That was Process West, I didn't realize that. Yeah, she's nice and tight there, nice and firm. It's kind of cool looking. The first sinful thing I've seen on this motor is that 14 doesn't work on that bolt. It's a 15. I don't know if that's Process West was provided or just there, but it's 15. So I'm gonna grab a 15 on my box and get that bolt out of the transmission that holds the Precision or Process West intercooler on. All right, top up here, we've got bell housing bolt there, and of course you got your one bell starter. Coolant lines back here. As far as over here, he says AC works, and I double check usually because I want to make sure, whether I can take these lines off or not, and it does work. So we got a 12, a 12, a 12, and a 12, and I can pull the AC compressor potentially off of there, out the way. I don't have to discharge any AC. And then the power steering pump is just a 12 here, a 12 up top. Take off the alternator stuff, obviously take this belt off, and then you've got a 12 in the back and two 12s going like that, and then get the power steering pump to the side, and the airbox is usually out of the way enough that I don't have to worry about that as far as moving the engine. And then of course next I'm going to do the coolant, get this radiator out of the way, and then it'll look like it's almost ready to come out when it's obviously not quite yet, but it's getting there. I'm seeing down here as I'm about to pull the radiator hose off, there's a lot of coolant all over. I'm not quite sure if the water pump's weeping or if the thermostat seal here might be leaking, but regardless, I'm gonna drain the coolant and get this thing ready to go. It is, you can see Ej20x, they have the dual AVCS stuff here that was never deleted, and we're gonna be using probably those coil packs up there because it's all brand new. Just check the spark plugs out, get the headers off, all that good stuff. If you also don't know where these are, yeah, fan there for coolant fan plug in there, and then the other one is sometimes draped down, sometimes it's like kind of bolted to like up here, but it's smart to get those two while you're down here. Got this thing loose, obviously it's gonna start pouring some coolant out. I'm gonna get that drained and get this radiator out. Radiator stays. I mean, the radiator bottom mounts are horrible in this. I think they're pointed out a little bit. Instead of being like this, they're like this, so when you go to pull, it just spines. I literally had to use a pry bar, unfortunately, to get this out. That one, you can see it's not straight, it's angled. And then this one, I couldn't get out without taking this piece out, the bottom. So hopefully it goes in nicely, but it kept wanting to pop back in, but it did not want to pop out. I literally had to use a pry bar for the first time in my life on a radiator. Mishimoto is not good quality, unfortunately. Or someone just bent him, who knows? All right, got the AC compressor off, power steering pump. I've got one bolt left back there. Right, you also do have a 12 here. But anyways, that's all off. AC is loose. My next step is gonna be these lines. Try to show you on camera. I don't use a fuel injector puller tool. I use zip ties, and I'm gonna show you how to do them in case you don't know. pretty much just like this. You can see like there's 2 lines right there. That means it's like the middle. I grab 2 zip ties. They have to be kind of thick to do this. But you put one in one side and you kind of push the line in and pop it in, and then push the line in and do the same thing on the other side. Boom, like that. And normally you want to relieve the fuel pressure, but this is how I do it, just like that. Now you pull, and just like that, the line comes right off. Do the same thing with the second line. The second one is harder because it's down there. But same thing, I kind of just spin them till it's a good spot, but put both zip ties in and pull it off. Now the fuel lines are off. I'm gonna go ahead and start working on the bell housing bolts on this job. There should be 2 up top, 1 below the starter, 1 on the right, in the passenger corner by the turbo, 2 bottom bolts and 2 bottom nuts. And then they got 2 motor mount nuts. This probably has engine grounds, I'd assume. The 2 on the sides for the heads, just 2 10 millimeters. And then basically start lifting this thing up and get ready to go. And I guess don't forget the downpipe as well. Probably, this looks stock, so it's gonna be like 5 14s, and then the back it's gonna be 2 14s and 2 12s. And the trans mount would be a 14 millimeter usually as well. If you have a Matco truck near you or something similar, these things are amazing for this job. It's a 14 millimeter ratcheting, you know, whatever style wrench, and they're phenomenal to getting all these bolts loose. It helps you break them loose and spin them out without having to use an actual ratchet or wrench. Not a major issue, but the first thing I'm seeing, I don't know if you know Subarus very well, but there is no ground on the starter at the moment. I see where they put the starter ground at, but it's definitely not there. I just found that ground. Someone put it on the block instead of on the starter. I'm gonna go ahead and loosen this up and see if it comes off. If not, I'll just have to take that 12 out. Not the biggest deal, as long as at least it's attached, but definitely not factory. Well, I started loosening this bolt on top and the starter started moving, kind of more than I would expect. I just figured out why. Unfortunately, the bottom bolt on the starter is only in by 1 thread. So I'll see if I can get a video of how it looks down there and show you. My flashlight on my phone is overheating, so I can't use it right now, but let's see here. The bottom nut is there. The one above it, the bolt. All right, there you go. There's the starter bolt. I have not touched it. Just chilling. It's about 1 thread in, so that's cool. See if anything else is loose. Hopefully this bottom bolt right there, that's at least tight. And the nut's tight, but yeah, that's that's 1 thread in, if that. Let's see if it just pulls out by hand. Alright, a second little thing, so it's not such a long video here. And oh, it's actually wasn't even in by a thread. It was just chilling. Surprised it didn't just fall out. That's kind of crazy. Get this bolt out on top at least. Right there, and the starter will be out, and then I'll have left out on this side is these 2 lines, that 112 for that line, and the both have bolt in it on this side, and then this side of the motor is ready. So the pivot ball, see the clutch part, the slave cylinder is pointed down instead of straight out. I think this clutch fork is not all the way up. It's supposed to be a touch higher. It's been driving like that, so that's interesting. Okay, all that's left is the front artery sensor, which I will end up taking out. I prefer to do that rather than taking the motor out with it, just in case you somehow bang it on the sidewall, the the frame rail. I don't want to hurt it, and it's very expensive. But I gotta show you this. I've got to. So see how this motor? Well, let me show you this first, actually. So there's that one nut you can see on camera, left, right there. It's tight. I have not loosened this up yet. I can't loosen it up yet because it's so dang tight right now. I got to use a different style 15, of course, which is supposed to be a 14. But see how the motor's separating? That literally means that the clutch is pushing, it's being pushed on there, and it's forced this engine forward. So this engine was not stuck together nicely. I know this because I've seen this before. I did it 5-6 years ago on a car, and I corrected it right away. This was not corrected, unfortunately. So I don't know how long this has been driven like this, but from what I can tell, this clutch, basically the pressure plate, is being like this always, because this clutch fork wasn't installed properly. So that's cool. Well, I got the pitch stop off, and this bolt here was what held the Process West top mount on. But this bolt out here is loose too. That's silly. Why is that loose? I don't know. Anyways, 2 coolant pipes left down here, and then the motor should be out. But yeah, the clutch fork is not on all the way. That's not good. Motor is separating nicely, which is good, but that's because I think this has had pressure on this the entire time and not been great. So we're gonna find out if there's any damage there. I'm gonna lift this thing up, get this motor out in a second. Again, I'm gonna get the ultra sensor out because I like to beforehand. And then the 2 grounds on the heads, there's like one down there and one down here, and then this motor should be about out. Like I said, ultra sensor is now out. I like to pull it out right here, sitting right here, just so I can have it out of the way. And now we're gonna go ahead and pull this motor out. Okay, motor's moving up nicely. Let's see if we can get this kind of sliding out here. I don't think it should be too much of a struggle. Oh yeah, nice, beautiful, coming out beautifully. Chains or straps are looking good. This turbo's probably gonna catch on the engine a little bit. And she's basically out. Nice. Okay, let's start lifting this thing up. Stand that thing back a little bit here. There we go. All right, motor is out. Throw out bearing. Yeah, so it's sitting like this. What it should be is up here, like that. So see how I just pulled it up? Now it's on the actual flange. See how that rod isn't bent? So throw out bearing here is pretty cooked. See how the shaft looks? Let's get that guy off there. Throw out bearing. Oh, you can see the wear on there. A little bit of lube, but definitely wearing on the edges there where it's been pushing. Put that on the ground at the moment. Shaft is actually looking okay. I'm happy to see that. Get this clutch fork out. And the clutch fork survived well. That looks decent. There's a lot of clutch material there, but at least it survived. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and pull this clutch off. You can see it's been riding on here pretty well. Pretty decently aggressive marks. I think this clutch is kind of newer. Oh, that's actually really good. Look at that. These are all not 12s. These are all 13s, I believe. So that's fun. Not like it's a big deal. They'll still hold, but they're just not factory. I'm gonna go ahead and get this off and let's see how this clutch looks. All right, see how this clutch looks now. It's a lot of clutch dust. It smells like clutch down here. I'm gonna see if this thing's usable or not, actually. Wow, I'm pleasantly surprised. That clutch doesn't look bad. It's got some pretty good life. Yeah, pressure plate doesn't look too bad either. Nice. The flywheel itself, decently hot spotted, but not the worst I've ever seen by far. I'd say it's usable anyhow. So he lucked out on this. I would usually always throw a new throw bearing in, see if we can get one to possibly put in, but at least the clutch is okay. So that's really good news. It was rubbing on it clearly. It was burning a little bit of this clutch, but the clutch will probably feel a lot better once this is in properly. All right, new motor just got dropped off. There's the old one sitting there. This new one, I just pulled out of his truck. Gonna swap over the intake manifold. I believe the coolant temp sensor on the coolant crossover pipe. Take all the coil packs out, and then this exhaust and stuff. I'm probably gonna swap this manifold out, swap that manifold off, put that manifold onto this engine, and lift this. So I'm basically going to take this intake manifold off of here, I believe, and then move that entire rope over to here, lift the engine up, take the headers off, drop the engine back down, take that intake manifold off, put it onto here, lift this motor up, put those headers on this block. This one actually came with the clutch, which is very surprising because almost all of these things are automatics, which is strange. Or, you know, they have a torque converter or a flex plate on them. But anyhow, the next step is going to be, go ahead and swap all this stuff over, and I'll show you once I'm about done. All right, intake manifold is off this engine. It's sitting there at the moment, not being used. I think I maybe end up using the turbo inlet, but not the rest of this stuff. It's a hot one today, but I got the JDM and the USDM, the JDM turbo's there, USDM turbo's there at the moment. I'm gonna go ahead and drop the nuts to get this header and up pipe set up off, and then put this motor down, get the flywheel off it and the intake manifold. And then I believe I'm ready to start lifting that one up with this intake manifold on it. Lift it up, swap the headers on, put the turbo on, clutch on, and drop it in the car, I believe. but it is hot. It's a hot one today, boys. All right, the turbo net is in this intake manifold now. It's a newer one. We got some disgusting something in here we're gonna clean out. But at least that's on. Just swap the coolant sensor on, and then gonna go ahead and do all the, you know, put coil packs on. We're gonna double check and see what plugs are in this block versus this block. Use the better plugs. Plug all the electrical stuff in, and then lift this thing up and get ready to put the headers on. All right, just swapped spark plugs from that head to this head. They're all NGK R1s, and they all look a little bit rich, but they all look honestly okay as far as gap and everything. Put those two in, torque them down. I'm gonna put these coil packs on, and then you got your blue oil control valves for both sides, and then your cam sensors, and then both sides will basically be done. And then obviously just the, well, not obviously, but then it's just the middle electrical connectors. All right, just clean the tow bearing up, put some more grease on it, clean this entire area. See, the clutch fork slips are still up like that, so that's actually straight and not down below. Anyways, gotta lift the motor up now, put the other headers on that are right there, and then get this back in the car. All right, motor is ready to basically drop in. We got the clutch on, turbo's on, everything's bolted up. The crank sensor is not plugged in because we'll be priming it that way. I'm gonna take this inlet extra piece off because the other car already has one, but plugs are in, coil packs are in, everything else is ready. So we'll go ahead and lift her up and we'll set it in. Whenever you do a different motor in your Subaru, you need to double check two things. One is bell housing alignment dowels. If you try to put a motor in that has dowels and your transmission has dowels stuck in it too, a lot of times you'll fight them and you can't get it to line up because there's obviously dowels. So you gotta pop them out of the tranny typically and keep the ones in the engine. That's kind of just how it usually goes. And the second thing is the studs. So I didn't realize until we just put it in that we'd have studs in this motor. Just moved them from that motor over there to here. And now this will help us align everything because there aren't any alignment dowels on this. Once those are in, this thing should slide in nicely. All right, a few minutes later and the motor is in and all tightened up and buttoned down. I'm gonna go ahead and lower this engine. Wanna lower the hoist down, please, sir? And then we'll lower this, see if it sits the motor mounts or not. No, it is not going to. We're gonna have to move it over with the pry bar. I'm in the middle of working on this car. I look back. Look at this. Oh, dang it. He put a monster truck down below the wheel and he was lowering the lift onto the monster truck to see what would happen to it. And now she's like technically completed. Looking all nice and pretty. Got all of these bolts nice and tight. The coolant clamps on bottom tight. I replaced this cap. I don't like the machine motor ones whatsoever. Don't care if you do. I don't. Got all these guys nice and tight. Tight there as well. And then this bolt that I showed you earlier, beautifully tight. Lines on everything, looking great. All the fuel lines are on. I gotta drain the oil, change the filter out, fill this thing up with the oil, prime it, and then we'll go for a fresh start with some coolant in there. I just went to go drain the oil and there was none in it. So definitely good that we'll be putting oil in for one, obviously, and priming it, you know, cranking it over without it actually firing. That way you build some oil pressure and doesn't, you know, just spin a bearing right away. All right, oil filter, I just pre-filled. I got the other one off the motor. I'm gonna go ahead and stick this on using some liquid moly in here. Stick this on here and then fill it up with the oil and coolant. Oil is in. He supplied me with about 1 gallon of coolant and no distilled water or anything. So at the moment, I'm going to just crank it, get some oil pressure built up, and then plug the crank sensor in and then do its first start. It'll be a little bit low in coolant, but I wanna make sure the engine sounds good. And then I'll fill it the rest of the way up with coolant. Let's do the first little start up here. Again, crank sensor's not plugged in, so it should not start. I cranked it a bunch there. You just plug that thing in. I'll turn the lights off because I don't need them on. See how first startup is. Oil light went off immediately.
No leaks. Idling freaking amazing. Oh yeah, but the carbon is great. Yeah, no leaks either. No leaks or nothing either. That looks good. That processed West intercooler, super weird. Super cool though.
Let's see what these lights are on for. Can you just have check engine lights on?
Good work, buddy.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for watching this video. Special help to my buddy Caleb. We knocked this out in one single day, about 6-7 hours of real labor. Swapping over everything, whole engine, put a new one in, and it feels great. So again, thank you for watching.